Glad you're here with us on Morning Express. It is time for us to now look at the way it is. And the way it is, we look at some of the big stories that have made the headlines in the country and looking at it, how it affects us, what are the ways forward. And of course, there's been a lot that's going on. Now, before I introduce my guest, we are expecting Hassan Omar, the Senator, to be here with us as we continue the show. I'd also mentioned that we had somebody from Jubilee who was supposed to come but cancelled, and therefore we'll have the discussion and carry on as it is. But to introduce my guest this morning, we have to my extreme left Ogla Karani, who is Treasurer for ODM. Great to have you on the show. How was your weekend?
It was good.
It was good.
Yes.
What did you get up to?
Over the weekend? Stayed with my family, went to church, prayed for Kenya.
Prayed for Kenya. And I'm sure Kenya requires a lot of prayer. Thank you for standing in the gap. We also have Madam Beatrice Elachi, who is Senator and Majority Whip in the Senate, and glad to have you. How was your weekend?
Well, it was good. Went for prayers in Kisii. I believe Bishop, we had his Thanksgiving for coming back from India from a very, very delicate operation, and we thank God for that as Catholics. And went to Ruiru on Sunday
for prayers.
Had a storm in Kisumu on Saturday, could not fly out, so we slept there. So yeah, it was an interesting.
I also managed to gather that you have quite an interest in sports.
Yeah. And not
your comments on the tennis, there was the US Open.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, at least Serena will go and train back. And you feel appreciated that she has inspired many to come in. Because when you are the champion, always those who admire, inspire in you, your role models will want to beat you. So I believe the Italian girl, wow. She did her best. And Serena should not feel disappointed, but feel encouraged that, we have those who are inspiring to be me. And that's why we say when you're a leader, you appreciate when you're mentoring those who come and take over you.
Ogla, do you follow sports?
Sincerely, I don't follow sports, but
she must follow running.
I follow the runners.
Running, I'm sure.
I follow the runners, and I take note of the winners, especially women. So I try to see what women are doing in sports, but I don't follow sports. I thank God I gave birth to daughters who love sports. So I tell them to do it both for themselves and for
on
me.
On your behalf.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right, let's get to matters at hand. And we'll start off, of course, with what has been going on for a long time, the impasse between the teachers' unions and the TSC and the government. And, of course, there was a ruling that was given. But just to sort of remind us and bring us up to speed with where we are, this is some of what has been going and some of the comments that have been made before we get into that discussion.
If you say you can't pay, won't pay, then teachers shall say we can't teach, we won't teach. That is simple grammar.
Katiba inasema waalimu ni waajiriwa wa Teacher Service Commission. Katiba inasema mishahara inaamuliwa chini ya Salaries and Remuneration Commission. We must all respect the Constitution and the institutions set up by the Constitution.
Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are under an obligation to honor and respect the decision of the Supreme Court.
Well, there you have it. That's some of the comments that have been going on in this particular row between the teachers' unions and the government, and also the TSC, the Teacher Service Commission, which is an independent commission taking care of the teachers. So let me start with you, Madam Beatrice Elachi. How will this be settled? And maybe to use the words that were used in yesterday's Standard on the headlines, who will blink first?
And that's why I come in today, just to say that I think where both went wrong is, and especially I want to take the TSC side, because I mean, there is where we went wrong, just going in court without looking at how do you sit down and work out a solution that is amicable both sides. Now, after going to court, yes, we have gone you have lost, we are here. But I just want to say now, it is time both sides now. Because as much as I know I have supported the teachers, I've been here, I have said. I have always said, then now go back to the reality. Because I mean, the union now must go back and ask itself, fine, we went into a new dispensation as a country. We agreed that as a country, we shall put in institutions that deal with this. We agreed that as a country, the civil servants, our teachers, our nurses, our police, are all. Now, these are like departments in a government to date with our new dispensation, all of them. As much as we say this is with here, they are like departments of government. And what we are now trying to say, and that is why I always say, for me, Kenyans love me, hate me, I'll give my opinion as a Kenyan, that when it reaches at that point, let us stop playing the politics, yeah? Because this is not an issue that started 2 years, 3 years. This is an issue that started when I think I was in standard 5, 6, 7 there. I saw teachers striking. To date, my kids have been born. They are still striking. No government has come in and just said, resolve. But I know at the same time, we have refused as a country to harmonize also that salary. In terms of, yes, I know there is a pay slip, and I know my mother was a teacher. You know, I'm not saying that because I've not been there. No, no, no. And to date, we have so many allowances again on this pay slip that when you harmonize it, indeed, the other sector will come out raising.
So are you saying the teachers are not being honest by...
So for me, it's not even the teachers. No, no, no. I think even the teachers, we are just using the teachers now as a game, you know. Let us come back and say, the institution, the union, now that we went to court, now that we are here, how do we go sit back, sit with Sarah Serem, agree on what we want to, because in the end of the day, we have to come back, whether we abuse Sarah how, she's the one who will decide how to harmonize this salary. And as she harmonizes, she has to ensure that indeed all workers, because it's not just the teachers, when you harmonize, you must harmonize across the board, because they are all together civil servants. So let us not play with it politics and say, oh, now the teachers, no, 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 no. For me, I want a country where we appreciate the structure of civil servants. And all of them are Kenyans, they deserve to be paid, but how do you do that? You must harmonize all. So, and if we agreed, these are job group 1, 2, whatever, how we call them, P1, and all of them are within the same, then ask yourself, if I am a nurse, what's my pay slip vis-a-vis my friend who is in this other institution? Because so in the end, everyone will come, the police will come. So how do you deal with that? So for me, I want to just tell them today, it's a Monday morning. I believe we can still go back on the drawing board, sit down, TSC with NAT, sit down and ask yourselves, because the problem is not even the money. The problem is in how do you ensure you pay it. Are you agreeing on a time frame? Do you want it immediately? And I think that is where Kenyans should ask themselves, do we have it immediately, or do we have a time frame? Harmonize and say, within this time frame, we are able to pay. Because don't forget, you are saying the backlog that has been there since 1997 when we started strikes and whatever agreements even of the late Mutula Kilonzo that was there now must clear.
Okay.
It can.
So in short, what you're saying, they should come to the negotiating table and discuss
let them not
this.
Become protagonists, both of them. They need to come and just sit and agree on this.
Okay.
Yeah, and Parliament also being the key. I mean, let us not run away from that, because in the end, whether we like it or not, it's the National Assembly that has to sit down and tell us, when we did the budget, these were the estimates of this and this, we can remove from this side and bring this side and just clear this thing.
Ogla, your opinion so far? It's week 3. The learners are the ones who are suffering. And at the end of the day, as much as there is this pull and push from both sides, from the two elephants, the learners are still at home. And of course, giving advantage now maybe to private schools, which are not affordable to the Mwananchi.
Mike, it's unfortunate that children of the poor are suffering, but Kenyans have suffered all along. The Kenya shilling today is going to the highest. It's getting low by the minute. So we are suffering all round. I want to tell teachers in Kenya that this time around you have a solid case. And if you give up this time, you will have sold your birthright. Teaching is a mother profession in every country. And teachers, like she said, have suffered for so long in this country because nobody has considered their plight. The teachers, the TSC itself went to court. It was not even the teachers. And so teachers must just be paid. This story of sitting to discuss what? The parliamentarians sat and gave themselves additional salaries and a lot of allowances. There was no sitting. It ended and they got their monies. They are earning today. The teachers of this country, the doctors, the nurses, the police officers. Yesterday we watched police officers pushing all the cars when if politicians, even MCAs, who most of them have not even gone beyond Form 4, did not even go to a teacher's training college for another 2 years, are driving big cars. Let the teachers be paid and paid now. If they don't pay, if this government cannot pay teachers, let the government admit that it has been defeated to lead Kenya and let it go home.
But isn't that, are you the same people who are going to come out and say, if, because this is based on the fact that the coffers, the Treasury has come out and said that we don't have, it's not sustainable. It's not a one-off. It is something that needs to be done. So as a result, it would end up giving us an economic crisis. And one would argue and say, looking at it long term, it is a decision that needs to be made now, but over a period of time. Now, when you say pay teachers and pay them now, regardless, do you drive this ship into a rock, regardless of what's going to happen, the result?
Jubilee drove the ship called Kenya into a rock when it came to power. They started with corruption. This 800 million that Waiguru and her people have been stealing, why don't they return and we pay teachers? The monies that they give, the budget that they give to NYS, the budget that they give to NSIS, that money is normally not used. And Kenyans are no longer fools. What they do is they load a lot of budget to security, waiting for any eventuality in case there is war or anything. But by the time their term ends, those are the monies that they carry in gunny bags to go and campaign and buy all the votes and steal all the elections.
I think that those are statements which we cannot validate or qualify.
Validate those ones.
How can you validate
in
that?
last elections, there were news, and it is still actually, it was a matter of national interest that there were monies that were carried in gunny bags into people's cars.
But is there proof? Is there proof of that? Let me just make this statement. I'd want us to try and stick to the issues and speak objectively.
I get your point.
And use facts that we can validate or verify.
Can I tell you this? I was in the press conference with my party leader, the Prime Minister, and we told Kenyans that Waiguru has stolen 800 million. The parliamentarians went to parliament and said she was the whistleblower. She's the one who's come out to say 800 million, and we know it is more, has been stolen, and we have facts. Now, are we going to believe what is being hidden, or are we going to believe the facts that Kenyans have?
Okay, Mike.
Now, there is a lot of money in this country that is being stolen. Most importantly, we have said it here as we sat in these chairs, that we did not believe we lost the elections. Elections were stolen. But when the Supreme Court said that the Jubilee won elections, which they stole, we decided to let go. Now, the same Supreme Court has said teachers should be paid. I want to ask the Jubilee government to please carry their cross, because they told us, agree with the court. In fact, when we have sat here with Jubilee members, where has always told me the court is supreme. This time round, we are saying, let the court be supreme.
All right.
Okay, fine. Well, for me, I think one, the gunny bags, 2013, they were both in government. So if they were carrying money,
they were together.
Wow, the Prime Minister carried a lot also. And then for me, the other thing is that I don't want to come here, and I've always said, I like looking at my country as a nationalist and as a person who believes this country has solutions for everything. And nobody has refused to say that, yes, we have a problem. Jubilee never drove anyone to a rock. In fact, so far where we have come, where the Grand Coalition government left this country, God knows. I don't need to come here to scream about it. And that is why in 2 years, we can see a lot that is coming out that is not good, because I always say a government that stays in power for some time will always leave challenges for our country. We are facing those challenges. These are not Jubilee challenges. These are challenges that we decided to run a grand coalition government that was 2 governments into 1 country that used to just do issues that are very mediocre. Sorry to say that today on a Monday morning. Because when you looked at how it ran that government and where we are, this is one of the solutions that Mutula the late would have done. But I would always appreciate his leadership in the education sector, because he was able to sit down and discuss. And therefore, it is something that we are carrying on board. We must now resolve it.
Okay.
We are resolving it when, indeed, I know CORD will come and say, now we have grand projects going on. Yes, grand projects that they gave us, that we could not let down, because what? You had already signed these grand projects with the various countries. And therefore, we are saying, as a government, you don't come in and throw away everything. As a government, you carry on. And that is how you sustain. You sustain an institution memory, carrying on every project.
All right, I'm going to cut you short. We'll take a short break, but when we come back, I'd like to hear from you what Ogla alluded to, and this is the fact that Jubilee government is in government today because of a ruling by the Supreme Court. Why can't they obey the same Supreme Court to pay the teachers? We'll come back. We'll come back with that answer. We'll come back with that answer. Do remember that you can participate in this conversation. This is the way it is right here on Morning Express, and the Twitter handle that you can do that is @MichaelG.Gitonga. Do stand by. We'll be right back. Great to have you on Morning Express. The way it is what we're talking about. So far, we had just indulged into the tussle between TSC and the teachers' unions. Of course, this is now week 3, where learners are the ones who are suffering, and this is because of an impasse between the Teacher Service Commission, an arm of government, and also, between TSC and the teachers' union, which is NAT and KUPPET. And joining us now in the studio is Senator for Mombasa County, Hassan Omar. Great to have you. Sorry about the hiccup with the traffic and road closure.
Thank you very much.
That caused you delay.
There was a road closure in South Sea area, so I had to turn back, and that costed me quite a bit of time to get here.
Great to have you. But before we took the break, I was just with Senator Elachi, and I want us to go back there. And the question is in regards to the ruling by the Supreme Court that TSC should pay.
And I think the government has not said no to the ruling. What the government is saying, let us look and wait for Parliament to tell us where are we getting this money. Because in the end of the day, and I always say, in terms of budgets, with our new dispensation, in the end of the day, even if the president goes out and says, give 20 billion, you have to come back to Parliament to ensure is there the 20 billion, and Parliament will tell you. I think Mutava Musyimi, if he's able to deny the senators the money and we are both in Parliament, then who are we?
But so far we've not had the government come out clearly to say that, look, we are looking for a formula. All they've said is we cannot afford it. There's no money. I
think for the government is because they are institutions. And I think it is very clear. Today Kenyans have a right. You cannot just wake up and say as government, as the executive, now we have money. No, somebody will again go to court and indeed question the interpretation of which law have you used, while the Constitution is very clear that it's Parliament that does budget for our country.
Okay, Senator Omar Hassan, your take on the impasse. It's reached now week 3, and it looks like no side is willing to blink.
Very convenient for the government whenever it suits them. So suddenly institutions are respected and the rule of law is supreme to them. When it doesn't, Uhuru just tells people to report to this, to to the police training against court orders. So I think it's the contradiction.
But having said
but that's said and done.
Even after he said that he had to recant it. So maybe one could say that he has learned his lesson.
He's not learned his lessons. Look, right now, if you look at the legislative process, where he is actually writing law by simply the presidential memoranda. So there are so many travesties to the Constitution and to the institutions of the Constitution that, you know, it is convenient whenever it suits you to say that you respect institutions. And if you are to respect institutions, this is what he needs to do. The SRC does not arise at this point. The Constitution protected every existing contractual obligations before the coming into force of that Constitution. It preserved positions that's why today Justice Rawal is going to court, saying that under the contractual obligations she's under, she was to retire at 74 and not 70. So, and the Constitution preserved those people who had not come into the system at the point of the promulgation of the new Constitution, so that these contracts will not be varied adversely, or your terms of employment will not be varied adversely to your disadvantage. So the Constitution preserves, and this contract, this obligation we have with the teachers was entered because successive governments have defaulted, was entered before the Constitution came into place. What the Supreme Court has simply done, and the Court of Appeal, is to affirm the provisions of that contract. And it is preserved by the Constitution that those obligations arise and exist. So any negotiation by SARA-SEREM is the improvement of that 50-60. It is not a reversal. It cannot go back. Those are legally binding commitments by the government, and they are preserved by the Constitution. Anybody who was in employment before the coming into force of the Constitution and enjoyed a certain level of contractual obligation will continue to enjoy those ones in a manner that are not varied adversely. They can be varied upward in terms of having a benefit. So I think the constitutional interpretation here is very succinct. So and as you put it, I agree with you totally. Rather than say, we can't pay. You know what happens? I had Beatrice when I was off the set saying how they are simply, doing projects that were handed over to them by the previous administration, which he called mediocre, just because Raila was in it, but Kibaki also was in that administration. So they tend to see nothing positive about.
I don't think she's saying because Raila was in it. She just said on mediocre.
Partly, but you see,
and it was not Raila and Kibaki. The technocrats were more worse. So I don't think whether Senator and this.
So that was probably, if you look at in terms of development agenda, and in terms of clarity, the Kibaki administration was much better. For heaven's sake, every Tom, Dick, Harry, you don't even need a lot of brains to know that the Kibaki administration was disciplined. There were systems. It flowed. You know, you might have had a few reservations here and there, but it was a system that was predictable. And when Kibaki came into force, these were just simply grand plans.
Okay.
Who is implementing them? Let me finish that. Who is implementing them at exorbitant costs? Who procured the standard gauge railway at a cost far bigger? It's not Kibaki's administration. That's not true. No. So it is not the Kibaki administration that procured the standard gauge railway. It was Uhuru Kenyatta's regime through the Chinese.
But it did not begin. It
did not begin with him. It did not begin with them. But you did not. If let's say you come in as a government, you need to set priorities. That was not a priority. So that's said and done. So the government should have said what you said, Michael Gitonga. They should have shown us systems of how they are trying to pay. There are so many places that they can pull money and be able to meet that obligation. The teachers are now breaking it down even further. They are teaching us that it is 1.3 billion monthly, so that you are able to service the obligations you are arising to the teachers. So you are not told to get the 1.7 billion immediately. You can get this at monthly basis. They borrow for all kinds of things every other day. They bail out companies which they have interest in.
Senator Elachi.
I think the most important thing Senator should understand is that when you look at the whole, and that is what I have said, that the structure we have today of government is that when you add the 1.3 billion, 1 billion, put it across. And if he's saying that the Constitution preserved, then I don't know why our health workers are also finding it very difficult to work with county governments. We would have preserved them and say, you are still at the national level. As human resource, you can remain at the national level, get your remuneration at the national level, and then the infrastructure goes to the county government. But what did we do? We said it's gone all because it devolved. So for me, I don't want to say that 3 years down the line, it was preserved. I think we've moved on. We are saying we are now finishing 5 years. The Constitution says now we move on completely with the new dispensation now. So the preserve was within the 3 years of transitional, and we have moved on now. I think we have to appreciate that, and we have to say, if we want to help teachers without politicizing, making it a Jubilee Code agenda, it's not a Jubilee Code agenda. It's an agenda for the country, because the children who are suffering do not know about Code or Jubilee. And that's what I've told my government every day. Sit down, go back on the drawing board, agree on how, what time frame do you want. This is an agreement that was there, yes, before we came into power. Look at what Mutula had proposed, move with the proposals, period.
Okay. Ogla, so for you, it is either they pay or they pay. There's no negotiation.
There is no negotiation. If my sister here is saying sit down with the teachers, who is going to sit down with the economy? The shilling is depreciating. So who will sit down with the economy that they're finishing every day?
What I think
who is going to sit down with that economy? The teachers need to be paid, and they need to be paid now. And you know, sometimes I feel that maybe some of the problems we face in this country is because this country has ignored the mother professions. There is a possibility that God is judging this country. Teachers have been frustrated from, I think, from since independence,
but
like
now,
she says.
When we keep saying teachers have been frustrated, yet they're not the least paid out of civil servants.
Oh yeah, they're not. In fact, they're the best.
What grounds are we using to say that they've been, you know, they're being taken advantage of, whatever? I agree that surely they do deserve a pay rise, and it is also important to note that they've actually had a pay rise that has been initiated by the government, which has been continuing. It's just that they say it's not enough. But on what grounds?
And let us not forget, within the region, Kenyan teachers are the ones who are paid best.
Within the region, Kenyan cost of living in Kenya is the highest than that of Uganda and Tanzania. So Kenyans, teachers need to be paid, nurses need to be paid, doctors need to be paid. And you know, this issue of saying that if we pay teachers, that it will then provoke all the public servants to demand pay rise. The question is, these people, these public servants, have been working for us. The fact that these politicians are earning the salaries that they are earning and that we are all living is because of these technocrats. Why not pay them? Why not even take a salary reduction? There is a lot of budget that has monies in ministries that have never been used today, Mike. Check the audit report, auditor's report. You will see even the Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers don't have seeds, they don't have fertilizers, maize are rotting in stores, everything is collapsing in the agriculture industry, and there is so much money in the Ministry of Agriculture that has not been utilized. What will happen is much of it will be returned back to Treasury by June, by end of the budget year, so that again they will ask for another budgetary allocation. In the NYS, the time bomb of this country, actually the military arm of Jubilee government today, they have so much money. I don't know how many billion they were given for budget for NYS. To do what? They are stealing others, 800. Of course they have so much. I don't even blame this lady. I mean, she's been given so much, so the best thing is to just, you know, why not pay
No. I mean, it would be very wrong to come and say the Jubilee arm of government or the army of Jubilee. I mean, and my sister here knows very well. Any young person out there waking every morning, going for whatever informal job he's doing today, earning some little money, for me, I will always thank God for that. But since my sister would want to see young people rising up the way they used to rise, and you find them charged in the morning, for me, I'm praying to God, NYS should continue. What we need to ask ourselves, and for me, now I want to look at
the issue. I think is not NYS continuing, but the issue is
the problem is not even the money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I want to thank the CS first of all, because indeed,
for stealing so much,
indeed, and let us not come here and say Waiguru stole. She didn't steal. What she has done, if you have rotten apples below you, what are you supposed to do? Sit down and say, oh, you know, in my ministry, people are just stealing money. For me, for the first time, you are able to come out and say, yes, people are here. And she told us very well, I have given the investigators to go and do for us a report. they have finished the report. She has come now, tabled her report and said, through the investigation, so that nobody will run to court. Because in Kenya here, we like talking here, but outside there, what we do is, it's very unbelievable. Anyone would have gone to court, oh, now I am being instigated, I am being vilified, but she decided, let me be calm, I will do the investigations, whoever will come out in this report, I will have to hand over now for prosecution. That's all she has done.
Okay. And I think,
I don't think it is wrong when you do that.
Okay.
It is wrong when you come and remove people and say you are sacking them without doing thorough investigation.
All right, and before I come to you, Senator, I'd just like us to be reminded, for maybe those of us at home, NYS, of course, there's 791 million, which, of course, she's a whistleblower, some have said, but we have some sound bites of what they have been saying and what has been going on. If we can play that, Director, then we can continue with this. And yes, Waiguru, and remember the Twitter handle is at Michael G. Gitonga. Should you want to participate and let us know what your feeling and your thoughts are. On to what Waiguru had to say.
The DCI confirms that there was a conspiracy to defraud NYS 695,400,000 in respect of committed disputed transactions.
So, Senator Hassan Omar, she has come out to say that there are people who are, working out to siphon money. Why should we punish the person who is actually dealing with that?
But first, let us conclude the teachers' issue before we go into the NYS. There's an existing legal obligation that we have towards our teachers. We must honor that commitment. That obligation has been inherited from one successive government to another. The teachers have scored a first, and we must support them to the improvement of those pay. And I don't like this mediocre argument by many Kenyans. Every other time we try to say how things are not running well. You compare us with Uganda and Tanzania and Somalia, and we are the best in the region and the best in that and this. Kenya could have done better, but its potential has been squandered, and therefore we need to ensure that we pay our teachers. We need to meet our obligations towards the teachers. It's as simple as that. It's not politics. It is law. It's a commitment, it's an obligation. And it could have been a Raila government, it could have been any government. Any government has an obligation to honor that commitment. Secondly, on this issue, I mean, Anne Waiguru has been a master of contradiction. She did not whistleblow. No. Get it right. The Star, and I keep saying, it's the Star that made this expose. And then when the Star made this expose, I remember some of our leaders took up the issue and demanded accountability. And at that time, there was all this hullabaloo, how we are not wishing well the NYS because it has done what Raila could not do for many years and all that kind of stuff. But you see, corruption, going hand in hand with, so to speak, development is a zero-sum game. If you want to develop, you cannot then siphon part or create that massive pilferage of resources so deliberately. So then, this is the issue where the hunted becomes the hunter. A total reversal. And if you looked at that report that was submitted to Parliament, Anne Waiguru's ministry was actually mentioned there. There were certain areas that were blank in terms of names being removed, where cabinet secretaries from other ministries were put in on account of these types of investigations. So what happens then? You are one of the persons who is to be investigated, and unfortunately or fortunately, I even saw that expose in KTN saying this is abnormal. How then? If Michael has said, go investigate this issue, the next day is you do not return a report back to her. The report goes to the DPP. So the report comes back to her for sanitization. And that's why when you hold a position of power, in the event of an investigation, it is likely that you will interfere with those investigations. And even yesterday, reading the Standard again, Standard on Sunday Standard, it actually throws more spanner into the works. It says it is this man, Aden Haraki, who was actually the whistleblower, who actually brought up these issues. So certainly, I think in this country, whenever you're a whistleblower, you become victimized. So therefore, we find Haraki now being the person of the 21. Especially and this thing runs. Look at how, I can tell you, Michael, there is no way in this country of ours, a ministry or a department will spend 800 million or commit 800 million without the knowledge of the people at the highest prison of that organization. That I can tell you for a fact.
All right.
Governors know who is being given even small little things about, about who's supplying toiletries. It is that serious in this country. So I can tell you for a fact, whatever schemes, it is the media and the opposition that, through the spanners, and that's why you're seeing this type of action. So,
Madam Elachi, is Madam Waiguru hiding behind junior officers?
No. I think what Madam Waiguru did, and I think for this, I don't want to go into those politics also. I want to just say it. One, she came out clearly. Whether it was the Star got the story from somewhere. So the Star is not just here to imagine and do, no, it got the story from there. So it cannot tell us it went and did its investigations to give us a story on the papers. No. She came out, she said what is happening, she decided this is my duty, she gave out the investigations to happen, she has finished. You can't say she's, how do you sunset her? I mean, really, if Senator Omar wants to say because of bringing back the report to her ministry, she will decide this will go, this will not go. I don't think so, because this is a public report now. You go back to the investigators, you'll get the same report. For her, it's just to read what has come out, that when I decided we need to be investigated, this is what has come out. So we can't come back and say Waiguru is now hiding behind the small work. I mean, it's not her duty to do that. Okay. And after all, we have the procurement team, we have, and when I look at the departments at NYS, and everyone knows that, you want the procurement team, you'll go to Ruaraka, you'll find them there. If it is Halake, he came in very late. Let us not even drag him in all this, because he came in when you look at now the report clearly, all these things were done way back in December, coming January, February to May. Halake just joined after. So we can't drag him in the issue. If he has come into the list, then it means he just joined and decided to have himself dip his hand wide into the jug.
Okay,
can I say one thing before
there is no cover-up, because Halake can still go back to EACC, to the DPP, and look and defend himself. And we let him now defend himself.
Can I say one thing before Olga? Just one of the most disheartening things is the grit and the viciousness upon which Jubilee defends corruption. Whenever you mention it, they call it politics. Ultimately, they said Raila was politicking. Now she comes in to bear witness that actually money was lost. So I think the viciousness and the grandstanding upon which Jubilee defends corruption in this country, from CSs to their own, is so disheartening and frightening.
When you say they defend corruption,
like what Beatrice Elachi is doing right now, rather than give the benefit of corruption, rather than allow independent investigations.
So the whole I mean, I want to tell Waiguru, we have allowed that investigation. You can decide whether to do this or not.
Justice not only needs to be done, but to be seen to be done.
To be seen to be done.
And that's what I want to come to Ogla. And the question is, you've talked about respecting systems and the rule of law. Why would you want Waiguru to leave office? Yet there is a system, there is a rule of law. It will catch up with her if she's indeed guilty.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike, you are right. Respect the rule of law and let us apply it to everybody. Charity Ngilu is just another woman who performed. I don't condone corruption, and I don't even want to be seen to be defending anybody. But Minister Charity Ngilu is at home. She even said she was a whistleblower. Felix Kosgei is at home. Kazungi Kambi is at home. Chirchir is at home. All of them because of corruption. What is so special about Waiguru? Whether she was a whistleblower, we have said she was not a whistleblower. She only did that to cover herself. And what Senator is saying, Kenyans must thank God every day for the opposition that we have today. Because if it was not the opposition that we have today, I can assure you we would be using dollars this minute, and I see us even going there as our shilling depreciates. I know I can confess very clearly, before the opposition, the Code Coalition come out with an issue, we do thorough research, and we have facts. I wish Kenyans would just remove this Jubilee Code issue and face the reality and know that we are talking about our country. We are not talking about Jubilee, we are not talking about code. In any case, as we came here, I am in the opposition, he's in the opposition. Did we eat from the government's house? I ate in my house, I can feed myself. But we are telling Kenyans, this Jubilee government is finishing the country in the fastest rate that anyone can imagine. In fact, Kenyans all Kenyans today should miss Kibaki, should miss Moi, should miss Kenyatta. These two are finishing the country. Let me tell you about NYS now.
Given the polls that you had recently,
let me tell
those polls are anything to go with.
I mean, really, you know, Ogla forgets we are all politicians, yeah? And let me tell her today, you know, when you are a bitter person,
where is bitterness?
You become very unobjective, because for you now, you have become now so coded, you're not looking at the country, you're looking at now my leader here, who was supposed to be the president, not being the, because Kenya is a country that I appreciate, that we love, all of us. Nobody, it's from government. What we do, we work as a country and go back to your house to eat your sweat. Nobody. And everyone here is responsible to make that country work. Now, when you come and tell me what we have done, we have given a leadership to Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And we have said, this is our leader, he will guide. We have not said Uhuru has to do everything for us. No, that's where we go wrong, and that's why I always tell Kenyans, we must appreciate all of us are working towards progressing our country.
You know, not becoming Beatrice, you are not waiting for your turn.
No.
You take over people's turn.
No. First of all, I want to just say, as a Kenyan now, for me, the politics of God, Jubilee, is neither here or there. Because when people are suffering, they don't remember it is God or Jubilee. They suffer as a country. Kenyans are very patient, yes. But we cannot come here as politicians, because all of us are politicians. Even Ogla is a very serious politician. She won't tell us she's not. And sit here and then face Kenyans and start playing our politics here. Then we are not solving anything.
What are you doing?
What we are trying to say...
What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, don't...
No, Omar. Because even you want to...
You come here pontifical.
No.
You're also a politician.
Well,
This pretensions. And I'm not saying that. Listen, we also have a background of struggle. When she comes here and pretends...
Well, a background of struggle...
This is the only one who's done anything for this country.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Don't do that type of thing. Just
No.
Ladies and gentlemen. And don't pretend that you're so holier than thou.
Do you love Kenya more than us?
What we do?
You don't.
You are holier than thou.
We need to move this conversation.
If she wasn't holier than thou.
We need to move the conversation.
If you are holier than thou, you would not have been in Jubilee.
You can't tell me I steal. And you can't tell Waiguru stole.
I would not like to have the speaker's job if this is what he has to deal with. But here we go.
No.
If we can stick
you
to
can't
issues
come here
rather
and
than
call
politics.
people thieves and they are not thieves. It's like me waking up today in the morning and saying, oh, Omar, when you are at the Kenya National Human Rights, then you took Ruto to... That is wrong.
You see,
because that was within his duty. But you can't come here and now vilify him for that. And that is what now Omar is trying also to do here.
So Michael, this issue of Elache coming out in this public, she knows she's the chief whip of Jubilee. She's been in all prayer meetings. She has been doing all these things.
Yes, praying for what you people did.
And then this pretensions, how she's more Kenyan than every other person.
No.
People have struggled for this country. And the fruits of their labor has been known.
She didn't say that she's more Kenyan. I think
she says Jubilee and CORD is neither here nor there. Jubilee or CORD is neither here nor there. Why are you in Jubilee? So this type of situations, these pretensions of a holier than thou pontifical, if you want to do this kind of thing, the Pope is coming in November. You can go and decide to be part of that.
Being a Catholic, I think I will feel offended if you talk that way.
All right,
which offended? I'm one person who admires the Pope. I'm one person who admires the Pope. You see, when you lack objectivity, that's what happens to you.
Senator, please, can we please just be quiet for a minute? Safadhali. Now, but tunyamaze tu dakika moja. Now, the thing is, we're talking about NYS and corruption. Let's stick to the issues. let's leave the Pope and religion out of this, please.
Yeah,
let's leave this out completely. Please, let's leave it out because it's going to trickle down.
Let's motive, because I'm telling her, if you want to be pontifical,
don't
go to the church. The church.
Okay, she has
listen, I will
Don't
repeat it
that,
because it's a
Umari.
fair comment. It's a fair comment on the basis that I believe, when I mean that, I mean that the Pope is at a higher level. That's what she does not understand. She just wants to be emotive to win public sympathy out there.
No, when you're in this kind of
game, you understand this type of people very well. So she comes in and pretends now at its religion. That
all right, let's talk solutions. Let's talk solutions. Senator Omar, let's talk solutions. What's the solution for NYS? Waiguru has come out and said 791 million has
that's the only solution in the refund of that money.
Sorry?
Refund the money, prosecute people. It's as simple as that. And that's the person who needs to step aside so that we now have a thorough investigation of the entire ministry is Waiguru. I think this is the first ministry where we can put our hands to the fact that money was stolen in a physical sense. Money was stolen. There was a conspiracy to defraud, and that person who had responsibility over those people had failed. It took the initiative of whistleblowers and the media to be able to put this thing into perspective, and therefore, had it not been for that, and her name was removed from the list that was presented to Parliament deliberately. So therefore, then the right thing to do is to step aside.
Removed? Do we have any?
There are gaps.
Yes.
There are gaps in that report.
But do we know that it is her that was removed?
Listen, it's common sense issues. There's a column where there are ministers. Just a minute.
Unfortunately, in law, you cannot deal with common sense. It would have to be factual.
It is common sense. Listen. There's a column where CSs, where their ministries are being investigated. Chirchir has been cleared by the ESCC, Felix Koske. Their ministries, it was not them being investigated. They were matters under investigation within their ministries. So what they did, they took everybody at the apex of that ministry and put them there as people who are subject to that investigation, including the investigation within Charity Ngilu's ministry. They were investigating the Waitiki issue. They were not investigating of essence Ngilu directly. Okay. So therefore, that column where there were CSs, curiously, one of the CSs is missing. Yeah, because in every docket, a CS, in every investigation, a CS will reciprocate it. In every docket, you will find that the...
All right, you made your point.
Yes.
Madam Elachi, why can't CS Waiguru step aside like all the other CSs?
You know, on the list, and I'm sorry to say, there was nothing to tell us anything on NYS. So if whoever removed, then it means they removed the whole thing. But when you look at that list, the way they were removing, because they were removing in a hurry, you'll find they remove a name, but they forget the investigations that are supposed to be investigated. So for me, there was nothing on the docket of devolution on that list. And we were the first to see the list before anyone else. So I don't want to stand here and say we removed the name and left.
Okay, in all fairness,
because it would have been seen in Parliament, everyone who got that list, you would have seen Anne has been removed, but there's an allegation on this and there's an allegation on this on NYS. But there was none.
So there's no grounds for her to step aside?
No.
None whatsoever?
None.
All right, Ogla, your solution on NYS?
You know, we sometimes talk in Kenya so loudly as though we are the owners of our lives. There is a God in heaven who watches over our affairs.
Fantastic.
And God himself has saved us from the evil things that were going to be done in NYS. This case of NYS will not be sustained. If Waiguru's name, whether it was there, Senator, or not, her ministry has been confirmed. In fact, the only ministry in Kenya now that has been confirmed beyond reasonable doubt. In fact, her mouth herself said money was stolen. So the best thing she should just do for this country is to step aside immediately and let whatever investigation needs to be done, whether the name was there or not. Money was stolen. Where is responsibility? Where is leadership responsibility? But let me say something about this NYS thing that I know it will not stand because its intentions and agendas are evil against this country. We were told by Anne Waiguru herself that these youth are saving some money. And we were even told that Kibera had saved this youth some millions of money. Now, This is a way of psychologically controlling these children. These young people are told, save your money, so that when they are told, when they will be used to go and steal elections and do anything, they know that our money is there. We're hoping to get our money.
That is where we go wrong. Isn't that where we're going wrong?
Who is controlling these savings? Isn't it a choice?
But if
it is my time. I did not fight with you people.
No.
Listen, when I want to save money, I want to go to a cooperative society, or I want to save money in a bank.
But you cannot decide for them what they're going to do with that money.
Were the NYS youth given the freedom to decide whether their money should be saved or not? No, I've talked to so many of them. They were not given. They were told, we are giving you this much.
Let's deal with facts. If you've talked to them, let's hear them.
They will speak. They were told, we are giving you this much and we are saving this much. Why should people control young people and tell us that we want to help the young people? This is a way of psychologically controlling poor people so that they can use them. Let me tell you, this NYS thing, and I'm saying it in a national TV, whether we cover it from which direction, even if ASCODE will keep quiet, it will collapse. I can assure you that.
Let me say something. I think the NYS program, in terms of its conceptualization, was supposed to give meaning to young people. I think to that extent you cannot fault it. But one thing we need to do is to depoliticize policy. It must be a neutral. Policy must be depoliticized. Secondly, we must, as we roll out grand schemes of development, we must equally fight corruption.
Okay.
So that then it's not a zero-sum game.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator Hassan Omar, Mombasa County, Ogla Karani, who is Treasurer, ODM, and Senator Elachi, who is Majority Whip. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the way it is. And we're going to wind up our show, Morning Express, right there. And I believe Sophia is joining me. Oh, she's not. Okay, she's somewhere. So anyway, that's where we wind up Morning Express this morning. Thank you very much for staying with us. At exactly 9 o'clock, we're going to have, or rather 8 o'clock, sorry, we're going to have the bulletin coming up right here, so don't go away.